Hey, there we go. Looks like we're live. Hello, YouTube and autonomy friends and fam. Welcome to day 6 of the 30-day autonomy habit adoption challenge. And you've probably got some results at this point, right? You've got a little bit of data to track, and we'll start to draw some pictures with this. This is pretty cool that we're actually going to see the data for ourselves and get a few different interpretations from it. I've got this one planned out a little better than normal. Typically, I'm here with you live to help you get through the day, right? To be with you, give you some accompaniment, companionship on the journey. I get it. It's a lot more fun to do things with someone, even if it's with a virtual person like myself, somewhere on the internet, on your phone screen, wherever, or with a friend. But in any case, I definitely wanted to be that sort of, daily present guide through this type of process. So we'll get into it. But that said, this one will be a little longer, just a little, but it's planned out. I want to cover a few things, and this is one of the weekend days, right? So we're going to get into a little more knowledge, a little more how to, interpret some of these results, and cover some success stories and some importance of the different elements in a little different way than we have been, right? So it's been sort of step reminders and then just sort of previews to these educational days, but now we'll get into some of the knowledge, right? So first of all, a success story from a viewer, right? This is actually a family member that's going on the challenge. I'll leave her anonymous for the moment, but she sent me a very cool message and a question sort of attached to it. And that question, that message and question is, Coach Kell, putting that shiny blue star on the calendar really makes me feel good. I always liked stars and happy faces on my schoolwork. Good association there. That's actually a very good thing to use if there's some type of episodic memory that's very positive and you want to attach it as the end bracketing task for a habit adoption. That can be a really powerful thing, right? That can really engage the reward prediction error that helps us repeat the task later. So that's a nice thing, and it's cool to see her say that. She says, that may not be what you have in mind as the ending bracket, but it works for me. Well, one, if it works for you, then go with it. But two, that is absolutely what I have in mind for the ending bracket. That is perfect, right? The ending bracket is a symbolic, significant end that signals to our brain that what we did was very good, right? And that is just very sort of, it stands out from the background, right? It's very significant to the experience of having done this habit, right? Of having executed this instance of the habit. So we want to do that as, clearly as possible, because that will engage the maximum natural reward prediction error, the natural dopamine release that comes from obtaining something that we want to do, right? Or finishing a goal that we want to finish, that type of thing. And it needs to be, it doesn't have to be contextually related, as in, like, it doesn't have to be, oh, I did my last push-up and I really told myself good job. It's more of a something that is just very clearly subjectively linked to it. So if that's a gold star on the calendar, on your tracker, that is the last step of your workout, and that's perfect. So that's fine. Absolutely what I have in mind. It's not whether it's, has to do with the habit itself necessarily. It's just something that is ritualistically part of it. That's the better way to say it. The only thing to be careful of, and I've mentioned this before, but I'll really emphasize it here, is that it's not something that you reward yourself with. Like, it's not an exogenous reward. An example of this would be if we had if we had some sweets or something, right? Like after we did the workout, say, okay, cool, I'll do the workout. And after that, I'll really mark the end of my workout by rewarding myself with some sweets. So that's endogenous dopamine reward, right? Because we're eating something to obtain it, right? It comes from outside. And that will prevent the neuroplasticity change in our brains, where engaging in ourselves by telling ourselves good job and doing this sort of, non-exogenous reward, ritualistic end task will actually engage it, right? And that will color and will color the experience of the habit and adjust the neuronal connections that have to do with that habit. So you want to make sure that it's not an exogenous reward. Don't have, a pint of ice cream at the end of a workout. What will happen if you set yourself up to reward yourself that way is, one, your brain knows the difference, and two, you'll actually start to resent the task that's keeping you from it. So the reward needs to come from the inside. That said, that is the importance of the end bracket. The starting bracket helps us start the task, right? It just turns the traffic signals to green. The end bracket is more important, really, because it's the one that actually colors the experience of having performed the habit, which makes it easier to repeat over time. It makes it more fun, or even more pleasurable to do that, right? So that's why it's so important at the end to have this clear, deliberate thing that signals to ourselves, good job, job done. This is good that I did this, etc., etc. So, nice job to my family member. And it seems like this is going extremely well for her. And I'm super happy to hear that she is doing a workout adoption as well as me. So, perfect. That's great. That said, I want to introduce an alternative perspective on exactly that concept, the end bracket concept and the reward prediction error concept. What I'm getting at is it comes from a personal experience of mine, which is I was diagnosed with ADHD in November of 2021. And the reason that's important to this specific context is ADHD is a condition that's caused by very low baseline dopamine, and that has to do with an overabundance of reuptake transporter molecules in our brains. That it's a genetic predisposition in most cases. It's a very tough obstacle to overcome because the reward mechanism in our brains literally just lasts for a flash. It just happens for a very, very short amount of time, and it's a little less noticeable, if at all, in the case of tasks that we want to, feel good about doing, right? So, whereas typical minds might feel, very good after having done this, right? It's like my family member here. She puts a gold star in the calendar, and she's telling me that really makes me feel good. For ADHD minds, they might not feel anything at all, which is wild, right? So, okay, cool. I did the workout. I remember seeing some commentary once on an ADHD forum that, they would hear people saying that they felt great about having done a workout. It's like, oh, I feel so good now. And they were going, well, this is, I'm not really sure, am I supposed to feel this way? Like, I can't really tell. Like, I don't feel, a very strong sense of accomplishment here. Is it just because the workout's over? Like, why does everyone feel so good? I don't seem to catch this. And that's because their dopamine reward, it is engaging, but it's not enough to overcome the threshold of the over-aggressive reset mechanism for dopamine that exists naturally in their brains, right? So that's a real challenge, because that means that things like workouts or just productive tasks, right? Things that we should be doing that have important future consequences or implications don't end up taking on the positive valence in our episodic emotional memory that they should. So we encounter the workout on the next instance of it, the prospect of it, and we go, well, okay, that doesn't, feel all that great. I don't really, that doesn't seem like anything I want to do. And that stands to reason, because it doesn't feel good after they finish. So in this case, for ADHD type minds, you really, really have to have these solid, very deliberate end bracketing tasks. You really have to engage it, right? That it's something that is just extremely important to engage as much reward prediction error as possible, because that's where you're just naturally going to struggle. And overcoming that is important for establishing habits, right? It's the essence of it, right? It's having that feeling of accomplishment, or at least that subjective interpretation of the action being something positive for us, is something that's very, very important. So if you know you have ADHD or you suspect you might, then and a good signal might be that you don't really feel any sense of accomplishment after something like a workout. You really have to absolutely hardcore end bracket the workout task, right? And make sure that your brain is just sort of considering this thing as a positive thing that's good that I should be doing, right? That's I can't emphasize that enough. Like it's really important that you do that. So I'll leave that there. There will be much more content on the Autonomy YouTube channel about the different implications and perspectives of an ADHD mind. That's actually the reason I started the channel. And we'll get much, much more into those topics as I continue to develop content over time. That said, let's take a look now back at the general view of the habit adoption and take a look at the tracker. So we introduced early on, not at the very start, but early on, this idea of habit friction, right? So this here. And this is obviously this 1 to 10 scale rating of how difficult it is to get a task started or to move through it, right? It's just how tough does it feel? How much do I have to drag myself to do this? And it could be because I'm too tired. It could be because I'm too nervous, right? I certainly can understand. I remember the very first time that I went to the gym, just like a retail gym, right? Feeling like, whoa, I'm very self-conscious. Like it's not going to look like I know what I'm doing. And that is friction too, right? Maybe I'm very energized, but the prospect of going in there and feeling, a little too seen is something that's very scary. That will cause friction as well. So that's what I'm talking about with habit friction. It's that resistance that we have to stepping into the task or starting step one. In the case of working out, that was throwing gym shoes on. If we're nervous about piano practice for some reason, then it could be the same thing, right? The other side of it is we're just too tired. Okay, so that's an important concept, which is the fact that friction tends to happen from one of two areas, which is the standpoint of being too tired to do it, right? So you're just too low on energy, you're just lethargic, kind of sedentary, you're just not feeling it, right? The energy is just not there. Or you're too nervous, you're too activated, and the thought of it is just making you tense, and there's just an activation of flight response, right? So where it's like, I don't want to do that. Like it feels scary. There's just something that I'm just really not enjoying about this. So that's the two sources of habit friction, right? And it's important when you're feeling a lot of friction to know where it's coming from, because that helps you assess what you should do to make it easier. If I'm feeling too nervous about going into the gym, and I know this isn't, a super easy solution. If you have, anxieties about going into a gym, I understand that can be something that's very personal, and that this isn't just, going to fix it, what I say next. But generally, in terms of shifting the state of our nervous systems, the thing to do if we're very nervous about going into the gym is to try to relax, right? Take some deep, relaxing breaths, engage the parasympathetic nervous system, which is this one where we feel very chill, right? It's to shift it back to that mode. The sympathetic nervous system is the one on the other side of that, where we feel very, very activated. Parasympathetic is very, very relaxed. And we want to find the proper position of that scale, right? This sort of seesaw. We want to find the proper position that launches us most optimally into a habit. If that's working out, then you might want to be kind of activated, but you don't want to be so activated that you're nervous about going in, that there's a fear element to it. Excitement's fine. Overexcitement and adding the context of fear is too much. So we would back it off slightly. Okay. If it's a meditation habit, obviously we can't be extremely activated at all. And the idea is to get as much deep relaxation as possible, if that's the type of meditation that you're doing. And there's different types. There's ones that activate you more. There's all sorts of different types of meditations. If you want to see more about some of that, that's a whole world of things. I've got a specific video about meditation and anxiety that talks about a couple of different methods and how the classic form of meditation that we think of when we just think of it generally is maybe not the one that someone who has an anxiety problem should do. So anyway, different topic, I digress. To look at habit friction over the week, right? And this is what I mean by an assessment. So we started on day one, which was this Monday. I had, on a scale of 1 to 10, I had a friction level of about 3. Friction was pretty low. I was ready to get started, and it was easy, to jump in, no problem. Tuesday, a little more, right? And I got workouts done on Monday, Tuesday, but Tuesday, going into the workout, was like, it's a little more friction than yesterday. Okay, cool. The Wednesday was 2 things. So I typically have boxing classes on Tuesday and Wednesday evenings. And every now and then, at least as much as possible, I try to work out on those mornings as well. So Tuesday morning, there will be my own workout where I go and lift weights. And Tuesday evening will be boxing, right? And the boxing workout is a pretty intense workout. The next day, I'll try to do the same thing if I've got the time, right? So I'll do a weights workout in the morning and I'll go to boxing in the evening, okay? And usually by Wednesday evening, if I keep up that level of activity, I'm absolutely exhausted physically. And you could see that in the day 4 video, right? Like I was just today's my off day. My voice sounded different. I was absolutely exhausted. That said, so let's look at what happened on Wednesday. Wednesday, I did not do a morning workout because I had to be on a very early train to go see the first UK host that I had for Autonomy live content. That was idea.eu, and I had to take a train up to Shropshire, which is northwest, I think, of Birmingham, and from London. And so it was about 3.5 hours on trains, and then another half-hour car ride to their very cool office that was actually very remote, but it was their headquarters office. That was a really, really great experience. It was a really good time with them. We had a lot of fun in the presentation. And for me, it was obviously, it was the first meeting in the UK for Autonomy. It was very, very exciting, very fulfilling, and just a lot of very good emotions, right? So, and a lot of energy. So my friction going into the workout on Wednesday evening was really low because I was filled with energy. I was very happy and excited to do more. And so I was excited to go share the news with my friends in boxing. I mean, it was just very easy to go. So my friction was at 2. Then Thursday hits, right? I get to bed pretty late, later than I should have. And Thursday starts, right? And Thursday, I woke up like I can barely move. I have very little mental energy. And I certainly could not, deign to work out right now. I mean, it's just I'm intentionally taking Thursdays as my rest day from a 6-day workout rotation per week. It's the natural position for that. It's the previous 2 days, if I've done it optimally, I've done 4 workouts. So, whoa, okay, time to take a break. That said, I still tracked the amount of friction, right? And this is just good to know. It'll start to help draw out the different contours of resistance that we have to habit execution for whatever reason. So we can go back over this and look at it and go, what was my week like? What was the thing that might have held me back or that made me feel tired? And here I had an idea, but I wanted to make sure that I wrote it down. 1, so I could illustrate it with everyone here. And 2, just so I know for my own purposes, like, okay, it was about a 7, it wasn't an 8 or a 9 or a 10. What can I do to get better sleep and maybe get this number down a little on the rest day? Because, well, that friction affects the other things that I do too, right? It's just a somewhat of a reflection of general energy level, not just the one for the habit. But if I were to try to do a workout habit execution, it was going to be a 7 out of 10 friction. It would have been tough. So took the rest day, and then Friday rolls along, right? Hit Friday, and the friction's still high. It's like, oh, I took the rest day, but I don't quite feel like I'm recharged yet. So, okay, great. That's really good to know. That said, I still pushed through because it was still important to get the habit execution in. And this is where the starting bracket really comes into play, right? Because yes, the friction's high, which means our traffic signals, right, in our brain, in the basal ganglia, are going, suppress action, suppress action. Don't feel like doing this. This is not something I'm interested in, right? And this, it's subconscious, right? It's at the unconscious and subconscious level. Cognitively, we know we need to do it, and then all the feelings of energy and emotion hit, and we go, oh, God, there's no way I'm going to get a workout in today. But it's a workout day. It's not a rest day. So what do? You just even more deliberately say, okay, I need to get some forward motion on this instance of the habit execution. So for a workout, that means, what's my starting task? My starting task is the one that I identified that is the true starting task, which is easy to do, which is put my shoes on. And once I put my shoes on, it doesn't necessarily make everything easy, but it does get me into motion. And that motion is what is reflective of those traffic lights, and also the cause a bit of those traffic lights turning from red to green. It's like, well, okay, my shoes are on. I'm grabbing my pre-workout shake, right? And I'm walking to the gym, and I'm exhausted still somehow, even after a rest day. But okay, like, I'm walking. I'm not going to turn around and stop now. I'm not going to say, well, no, that's it. Like, I'm just going to go home. No, let's go in there. It wasn't the best workout I've ever had, but it was a workout, right? And then at the end of that, even more clear, deliberate end bracketing, right? So workout, recovery shake, done. It's good that I did this, especially when it was hard to do it today. The effort was rewarding itself. So great, really engaging that reward prediction error and just getting strongly into, in my own head, into the reward mechanisms that will color this task positively. And that will really solidify, as we've been over many times, the habit adoption. What happened today? Well, got plenty of sleep, woke up, and I'm back at a 3, right? So without the rest day, that never would have happened, right? And even with the rest day, it wasn't immediate that I got my energy back, but I did, right? Even after I got the workout in, it wasn't the best workout, but it was a workout. That said, got plenty of sleep the next night and woke up this morning energized, ready to go, threw my shoes on, got into the gym, and I think it was 7:15 this morning, and the workout was great. So that's what rest days can do. And the idea is to try to run these bits of habit friction down each time, because the repetition and the reward prediction error and the subjective consideration of each habit execution as something that's good and positive is what makes it repeat more easily. This can get so good that it will start to feel weird when we don't do it, right? It's like if you wake up and grab a cup of coffee in the morning, which many of us do, if you don't do that, you'll feel odd, right? Because that's such a, for people that love coffee, just a naturally rewarding process, right? Exogenously rewarding, if you will. That is a self-enforcing habit. The feeling of caffeine is good. In fact, the reason it feels good is because it roughly doubles the dopamine baseline in a typical mind, right? So exogenous reward, it's going to create a habit. It is habit forming. Caffeine is a habit forming drug, right? What's cool is we can kind of create our own habit forming mechanism for any action that we want. And that's why the end bracket's so important. So let's call it here. This was a long broadcast. I hope it was instructive. But tomorrow, we're going to introduce some new concepts that make this even stronger. It won't be as long, but This is going to get into some really, really cool neuroscience that just really makes the habit adoption stronger. It makes the hard days easier, right? It will just push you into the action, and it's just really powerful stuff that's just going to make this stick even better. So great job. Here we are at the end of the first week. We're going to cap it off with the instructive session tomorrow, and then we will launch into Monday, really nailing it, right? And having some more tailwinds to help these habits just really, really just become a part of our subconscious, and to where they just happen on their own. So talk to you soon. Well done. And I hope you have an excellent weekend. See you guys.